take rap serious, bro.
That's what's up. It's like it's a sport, right?
Yeah,
you're competitive about it. Yeah, that's what's up, and that's how it should be. But there's a lot of cats in this city that don't take rap seriously, and they think that them coming out with a little bit like freestyle or like an EP with 3 songs on it, that's enough to get your attention. And I'm like, no, that's not what it's gonna do. Like, that's not how you approach the game. You know?
A fact, man.
See, we got Bedroc in the building.
Yo, talking
that shit. Sorry. Welcome. Topic time.
Yep.
Okay, let's go.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me.
No. You know what it is? If I'm totally honest, there's always a thing of we don't speak to the older artists or the older people of the city that have actually put in work. And I would say Prophet had mentioned you. This is God. Prophet mentioned you. Seraphim mentioned you.
Yeah.
We didn't go to Yolanda's show. I feel a tap on my back.
Yeah, what's up? I had to come up to you. I think it's like the thing about it is that I feel like the old heads feel like they've been left behind.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's how I feel sometimes. Sometimes I'm like, there's so many things that have gone on in this city that people don't talk about anymore or people don't revisit.
Yeah.
So the older heads, they've moved on from what used to be hip hop to them. So now the newcomers that come up are like, okay, they don't respect the OGs of the game because the OGs don't make themselves present.
This is what do you know what? We had Seraphim and Manny Lude on, and I said the same thing where I had said, where I'm from, we celebrate our OGs, especially if they put work in for our culture and community. We're always going to uplift them. So that's why when I've come here, I haven't heard no names. I haven't heard this person's done this. I just knew Benny J.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
But the longer I've been here, I'm starting to learn about this person. Okay, this person done this person done this. But I'm a bit dumbfounded because I'm like, why are we not pushing these people up?
Yeah.
If they've done what they've done, it doesn't matter if, they've got a family now. We all have families.
Yeah, we do. We all have families. We all have work.
Yeah.
We have responsibilities. Yeah, I understand.
You understand what I mean? So it's like, why are we not pushing the OGs?
Yeah, it's true. And it's funny because even at Yolanda and Comrade's release party, there was a lot of OGs in that building. Like, there was a lot of cats who've been doing what they've been doing for a long time that don't get their names recognized, and nobody reaches out to them anymore. Or, well, I can't speak for all of them, but I just know that for a few of them, I know that people don't reach out to them. Like, for instance, let's talk about IP and Know-How. They're probably one of the oldest production duos that we have in the city. Yeah. And a lot of these young artists should be hollering at these guys for beats. Like, it's no question. Like, these guys are seasoned veterans, and they don't get the acknowledgement or the flowers that they should be getting, right? And that's something I think it's sad. So, you know.
But are they actively making beats now?
Yeah, actively making beats.
Okay.
Infinite P, which is IP.
Oh,
IP,
I know what it is.
Okay. Yeah, there you go. You know. So IP makes beats all the time, and he has the Spotify up. He has Apple Music. He has everything set up for streaming. So all you have to do is go to his site, and basically all the beats are up there, and you can just go through them and holler at him. And what is really cool about him is that he does listening parties or listening sessions at his house. He's got a lab set up there, so he's got all his equipment, all his music that he samples at his house. And if you're an artist looking for beats, he'll invite you over and go through the catalog with you. So that's something that a lot of producers don't do. They'll send you a producer pack in an email or something like that, or be like, direct you to Spotify and be like, okay, well, these are what I have, and you can go through them. But he's doing it at his crib. He's saying to you, come to my crib, let's burn some trees, and let's actually sit down and be like, hey, this is what you're looking for your project. Okay, I can give this to you, or I can make something from scratch. He does that.
All right, so can I play devil's advocate?
Okay, yeah,
for the new generation, yeah?
Yeah.
Now, I'm 37, so
That's okay. I'm 45, so that's what's up. I'll tell my age.
Now, some of the newer artists,
yeah,
may look at the older producers and feel, it's their beats sound old.
Yeah.
Or are they? Do you feel that, for instance, if I'm honest, I haven't heard IP's beats.
Okay.
So I don't want to.
No.
But when it comes to an older producer here, do you
Yeah.
think that they've evolved with the time? Or do you think they've only just kept the sound that they have?
Okay, so with IP and know-how, those are the two that everybody's soul. That's what they go through.
Yeah.
They go by everybody's soul. With them, their beats are very very Rock Marciano, very like older Kanye sounds. Like they have that
sample heavy.
Yeah, they're so very sample heavy.
Yeah.
And I don't know if the younger generation or the new generation coming up wants to hear those beats, but there's still an audience for those beats.
It definitely is.
Right?
It's a very niche audience,
Yeah.
but it's still like a demographic that appreciates that sound very strongly.
Exactly. So with that being said, there's other cats that make beats that are similar to that sound that are in Calgary that maybe people don't know about, but they're still out there.
Yeah.
And when you see like an artist like K-Riz come out and he's got Junior T from Toronto making his beats for his album,
Yeah.
you could tell that there's that sound that artists are looking for.
Yeah.
Right? So I feel that there's definitely that niche, like Prophet said, there's that niche market that's out there, and there's a niche fan base that wants to hear those records.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So for me, as an outsider,
okay,
we're still bonding. We're reasoning right now.
Yeah.
How did Bedroc start?
Oh wow. Okay, so Bedroc started when I was about maybe 17, 16 years old, listening to college radio.
Okay.
And there was a show by the name of The Groove on every Sunday for 3 hours, with the host Drew Atlas. So Big Drew. He does a soca show on CJSW now.
Yeah.
On Saturdays, but he used to do a show on Sundays called The Groove. So before Main Ingredient DJ Cosm, there used to be the show was 3 hours, and it was just all hip hop and R&B. That's it. And you listen to this show every Sunday and pick up what was new and what was fresh. They played all the newest records, the newest sounds. Any up and coming artist that was coming up in that time, they would play their records on the show as well. So it was a really good outlet. They had that show for maybe up to 4 to 5 years in Calgary. So what happened is I used to call into that show every Sunday to get they were giving away a Wu-Tang t-shirt, or they were giving away CDs or vinyl. And I would call in and be like the 10th caller or the 8th caller. And I just would always call in that show because I thought it was dope. And that's back in those days is when you had the tape the recorder,
yeah.
And you had to tape your music. So you had to have the pause button and then the record and play and wait for your song to play.
Yeah.
So I used to make mixtapes, and when I was in high school, I always had a tape from The Groove. Every Sunday, I would come to school on the Monday and be like, "Yo, I got a new tape. I was like, you want to hear the new tape? This is all the new stuff." Boom. So I eventually got in touch with the guys that ran the show, and they were like, "Why don't you come down to the university on a Sunday, come chill with us, and let's just see what we can do, while you could be like an intern or just learn what we do."
Yeah.
So I interned on the radio show for maybe about 3 years, and then I got my own show because I had volunteered at CJSW, and I started doing my own show. And my show was more geared to soul music. I wasn't really doing hip hop and R&B. I was doing more like soul records and sample records and Motown and 70s records. And that's what I was focusing on.
Yeah.
So I started doing that show. And then I started hosting DMC battles. So there was a lot of, back in those days, there was a lot of DMC DJs in the Calgary scene, like DJ Pump, DJ Astro, DJ Dega. And so these guys were coming up, and I would host the battles that they were in at like local clubs like the Capitol. There's a lot. I don't know if the Embassy ever had a DMC battle, but the Embassy was around. We had Cherry Lounge back in the day. So when I started doing that, I started emceeing these DMC battles. People always would be like, "Yo, you should MC host shows," and I was like, "Nah, that's not really my thing. I'm doing the radio show, and that's all I really wanted to do. I didn't want to do anything else." Then I got approached by Ill Movements. Ill Movements was a promotion company that did shows like De La Soul, The Roots.
Okay.
They did a bunch of different shows around town. So one, they offered me, they say, "Hey, why don't you come down and do the De La Soul show?" And I was like, okay, I could host this. I know exactly what I'm doing. I know my way around the mic. So I was like, okay, let me do this. And the show that I was doing on CJSW started taking off and started getting a little bit of popularity. But I had decided to move to Montreal to go to school for sound engineering. And when I was doing that, Wise One from Dirty Needles, he was like, "You know what? If you're going to leave the show and you're just going to leave it, why don't we take it over?" And I was like, "You know what? That's dope. Keep it alive." But what I didn't know is that Wise One and Irwin, they didn't really want to do the soul shows anymore. And they wanted to do a hip hop show, which was dope. I had no problem with that. I was like, you know what? If that's what you guys are going to do, that's dope. So they took it over and they turned it into Dirty Needles, which goes on now. They've been on the radio now for over 20 years.
Thanks.
Okay.
So that's how Dirty Needles started. So basically, the Groove stopped doing the Groove. DJ Cosm took over the Groove and he turned it into Mental Illness. And then Mental Illness now is main ingredient.
Okay.
See, that's how that happened.
Okay.
So a lot of things started getting mixed around. So I moved to Montreal, started doing my sound engineering. I hated it. It was the worst experience of my life. I didn't know, like, it's not that I wasn't open to doing it. I was just like, it wasn't my speed.
Right.
I wanted to do something a little bit faster. I wanted to move. I wanted to shake. I wanted to be doing, like, I wanted to check out what was going on in Toronto, because Toronto is not very far from Montreal. I wanted to go to Toronto a lot on the weekends, and I started doing that. I would go up to Toronto for the weekend and hang out with my boys that were all MCs. And I was like, yo, man, I was like, this rap shit is dope. like I really started feeling it. Like, I came from a DJ background and MC background, but I hadn't really got into rap. Like, I was studying it all the time because I listened to music religiously all the time.
Yeah.
But I wasn't trying to spit. Like, I wasn't trying to get in the booth until I saw my friends do it on a local level.
Yeah.
So I started to get introduced to people like Rich Kid and Tona and Atom Bomb, Theo 3. And these were guys that were all MCs. And I was like, yo, these guys are dope. I want to do this. So I came back to Montreal one weekend and I was like, I told my aunt, I was living with my aunt at the time. She lives in Montreal. And I told her, I was like, you know what? I'm going to school for sound engineering and I hate it. I don't want to do it anymore. So what I want to do is I want to switch to music business. And I decided to take music business classes instead and learn about the game, like just really just soak in the game. So I started doing that. And then maybe about 2 years, maybe 3 years living in Montreal, I decided to move back to Calgary. And I saw that there was a lot of opportunity in Calgary, but there was no visibility. Nobody was actually stepping up and saying, okay, you know what? Let's do it this way and let's do it that way and let's create a sound. And that's why when I talk about visibility, I'm talking about the sound. And nobody had a sound in Calgary. And that's the thing that I find is the biggest problem now with the newcomers is there's no sound. There's no cohesive. There's no Calgary sound. Yeah. There's no cohesive sound coming out of Calgary. There's a lot of great talent. Let's not get that twisted. But there's no sound, and that's the thing. Like, you look at OVO, and that's a sound.
Yeah.
You know, like no matter everyone can say that Drake this, Drake that, but if there was no like 40 created that sound.
Orchestrated the whole sound.
Yeah, exactly.
Fact,
you look at The Weeknd.
Yeah.
The Weeknd, well, actually, another guy from Calgary, Carlo, he was The Weeknd's engineer on the Balloons album trilogy, and he created a sound for The Weeknd. That's what comes out of Toronto. There's that sound.
There's a sound out of Toronto for sure. But that's the thing. Why? Sorry to interrupt the story.
No, go ahead.
It's why do you think, like, in terms of the artists, older and new, they're not adapting their own sound, but rather carrying other sounds from different places and making it their own, if that makes sense?
Well, I think it's just a lack of confidence, truthfully. I think it's that everybody wants to be somebody, but nobody wants to put the work in to be somebody. So a lot of these younger artists and a lot of these older artists, they want to get that pat on the back. Yeah. They want to be told, hey, you know what? What you did was great. Let's do it again. No, that's not how it works out. Hey, you know what you just did is dope, but how can we improve that? Nobody's saying that to each other. So there's a lot of patting on the back and naysayers and people that are coming into the game that are culture vultures and they don't deserve to be here.
You know what? We talk about this.
Controversial topic, dog. Because the way I see it, I feel there's a certain level of, and people hate this word, but gatekeeping that needs to occur from those that are like the creators of this shit.
And
Prophet said this. Prophet said this.
No, and the thing about it too is that people say that there's gatekeepers at the door in Calgary and that there's certain people that are not letting them in and like, oh, this is not happening because this is not happening. But okay, this is a prime example of gatekeeping at its finest.
Yeah.
When promoters are doing shows, they ask an artist to sell tickets to that show in order for them to perform at that show. That is gatekeeping. That is gatekeeping at its finest.
Bro, if you go back to the first interview I'd done in 2017 with Billy Bishop, the second question I asked him, I said, it doesn't make sense because back home, that concept, why do you guys sell tickets in the city? That doesn't make sense to me. I've been saying this for years, bro.
The thing about it is that I think personally what it is that instead of cultivating talent, okay, for instance, I saw Prophet perform. And this was the first time I'd ever seen him perform. And I saw him perform at the Palace. And I was like, okay, well, you know, who is this guy? Like, did he sell tickets to get on this show?
Oh, is that when he did the Jeff Hardy?
That's what I thought. I was like, how did he? I was like, I had never seen him perform before. So I was like, okay, well, what did he do to get here? And what gatekeeper allowed him to get here? So I watched him perform and I was like, okay. I was like, this guy's got a little bit of swagger. I'm like, okay, this is nice. And this is a change of pace. I don't usually see this at shows. So I'm very interested in knowing how he got here. How did you get here?
In all honesty, it's a lot of connections made and also building a brand, you know, because like I've been releasing music since 2016.
Okay.
You know, I released my first...
That's almost 10 years in the game.
That's a fact, man. And I released my first project 2017. Shout out my homie Eddie Clips. We dropped a EP 2018. I dropped a solo EP that same year. And then a couple singles that were buzzing, a couple videos. And since the pandemic, like I locked in, got my own mic, you know, set up everything, in-house studio.
And you're investing in yourself, right?
Fully invested.
And that's another thing that I wanted to talk about. There's no investment. There's no packages. There's artists that are coming out and saying to you right now, they're like, look at me. This is what I'm doing. So you should just honestly look at me and see what I'm doing and not worry about anybody else. Just focus on me. How is that possible when there's 25 artists, in my opinion, that have something popping right now?
But these are the things that we need to be talking. Because the thing is, when I talk about this, people get angry. what you're saying, bro, we've spoken about, you know. I promise you, we've said these sort of things in terms of tickets or artists investing in themselves, but we live in an era where everyone thinks they're sexy, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, and
Kardashian money.
Yeah, but do you know what it is? Even with that, this is the one thing. Simple concept. I see artists with money in their videos, but don't want to pay for studio.
No, they don't. They don't. They want their homie that has a mic set up in his closet in the basement of his mom's house, and that's where they want to go to record their EP. And I'm like, yo, first of all, levels don't sound right. Second of all, what's up with your background vocals? Thirdly of all, if you were to perform this song, could you perform it at the Palace? Case point, can you do that? Do you have enough material to perform somewhere live? No, you don't. So I don't understand why there's this like self-entitlement.
Because you know what it is? Because people are not honest, bro.
No, they're not.
Why? All right, so you tell me, because obviously when you was coming up, were people more honest in regards to their music or their talent?
1,000%. Like, I feel like, okay, for instance, I'm an artist. I'm a hip hop artist, and I make music. I don't really talk about that as much as I did before, because I'm not making music as much as I did before.
Yeah.
Okay? I'm not ready to drop a project, so I'm not going to announce that I have music somewhere for you to hear. I do, but it's not what I came here. That's not what I came here for today. But the thing about it is, there was a time where I could go to Irwin and Wise One from Dirty Needles and be like, yo, I have a record coming out. Irwin would be like, okay, cool. Email me the track to my email that I have for music, and I'll listen to it. That did not necessarily mean that he was going to play that song.
Thanks.
That he wanted to listen to it. Is it quality? Could we play this song on our show? Would it interpret it with the other songs that are being played? No, it wouldn't be. Okay, you know what? I liked it, but it wasn't up to the standards of what we're doing. So maybe you need to go back to the drawing board. That's honesty. That's what needs to be said.
Yeah,
that's not gatekeeping.
That's the only way people are going to improve, is when you get that critical, you have to have a critical ear that's going to tell you honestly, like, okay, boom, this is good, but this needs improvement.
And it's also about the sonics.
That's a fact.
You know what I mean? Like, like you said before, you released a couple of projects and a couple of freestyles and videos and visuals. But when you did that, did you not show it to the people that in your camp that you knew that were going to say to you, hey, Prophet, that's not it?
Yeah, I heard that so many times. People telling me, yeah, you're getting better. But to be real with you, I didn't release the first song I dropped. I didn't release the first few songs I recorded, I should say. Like, you go back to the lab and try to like sharpen things up. Like, no, that's your delivery isn't right, your flow isn't right. That's not the right beat.
And that's why we have things like SoundCloud.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
SoundCloud is a big tool for upcoming artists. Put your stuff on SoundCloud and see how it measures across the board all over the world. You can have all types of people listen to your music and say to you, hey, you know what? This first verse was dope. But what's going on with the second verse? And what's up with your chorus? And what's up with the beat that you picked?
But people look down on SoundCloud now.
They shouldn't.
They shouldn't because it's still a tool, bro.
It's still a tool. And think about it. There was a time where internet rappers, blog rappers, SoundCloud rappers were getting signed to actual deals.
Yeah.
Look at Wiz Khalifa. Look at Mac Miller. Yeah. They were internet blog rappers. Look at Drake. Drake was
Currency.
Yes. Yeah. That's a really good reference right there. Look at Currency's his career right now.
Yeah.
He flourishing.
Is flourishing and independent.
Yeah.
Doing it on his own terms, his own way. He didn't sign to any major label. He's doing it all on his own. All those cars you see he has on his Instagram and all those $1 billion places he's renting or living in New Orleans, like, that's real talk.
But this is so this is where gatekeeping comes in now. Okay?
Okay.
Now, the one thing I would say is we can gatekeep our culture, but in Calgary, people can gatekeep opportunities.
That's true.
Does that make sense?
No, it makes entirely sense. Lots of sense.
You know what I mean? So, for instance, I can openly say there's how can I say? I'm trying to think. All right.
Don't be politically correct.
I'm not trying to be. You know what it is? It's not that I'm trying to be politically correct. I don't want anyone to say that I'm talking about them. You know?
Okay.
So it's more like there's artists here that are in certain rooms that they don't want to be in.
Okay.
But they're in those rooms.
Yeah.
You know? And by being in those rooms, they'll be given bigger opportunities. Now, if, let's just say hypothetically, if WH doesn't get on with the person in that room, I won't see no opportunities from... So, am I making sense? That's the only gatekeeping I can see. But if I'm saying, for instance, we're going to throw a show, they can't gatekeep that. That's our community.
That's why I always say you need to create your own opportunities before you see others.
Yo, for real. Like, okay, for instance, if you're making music and nobody's fucking with it, there's got to be a reason. Yeah. It's not because everyone's snotty or people just aren't feeling you. Like, there's got to be a reason why your music's not being fucked with if no one's fucking with your music.
Yeah. There
has to be a reason. And the thing about it is that there's a lot of people who've got a lot of big egos that don't want to hear that their stuff isn't up to par. Like, for instance, you guys posted a WHcalgary freestyle. I don't know the name of this artist. He's East Indian. He's brown dude. And he put up the freestyle on your WHcalgary. Mm. And I personally listened to it. And I was like, no, this is not it. And I put in the comments, no, this is not it. And he said to me, ouch. And I was like, okay.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
Okay, you know what I'm talking about. Okay. So he says to me, ouch. And I was like, okay, you know what? He took that in stride. He actually saw somebody who said that they didn't feel it. And he was like, ouch, you know what? Maybe I need to go back to the drawing board and work on what I'm working on. Do
you know what's crazy? Sorry to cut you.
No.
That same artist asked me to do a street heat 2 weeks ago. And I said to him, you know what? Sharpen up.
Yeah.
The same thing I said, before you come back on, just put, and then come back on. And he didn't get angry. He said, you know what? I'm going to do something and I'm going to send you over some of my freestyles first.
There we go. See? And that's a positive step in the right direction. And that's what I'm talking about with visibility. There has to be a line drawn on what you could put out as an artist. Like, we're not talking about turning into spitter or currency overnight.
Yeah.
We're not talking about that. But we're talking about you taking the extra time, like you said, to sharpen your tool. Mm-hmm. And if you're out there trying to use a Ginsu knife against somebody who's holding a machete, that's not happening. That's not happening. That doesn't make any sense. Either you're getting a limb cut off or somebody's getting decapitated. That's just real talk.
But watch this now. I love what you're saying, bro. It makes sense in every sort of way. But again, one of the things that you have to find, especially here, kumbaya. Everyone holds hands. Everyone competes together. So we don't know who can actually be held in high regard because everything is very much just, you've done well.
You know what it is? It's a false sense of community. That's really what it is.
Oh, yeah. For sure. Because the thing about it is, if you go to other cities, and I know Prophet can attest to this, when you're in a cypher with other MCs, you're not there to hold a hand. You're there to spit that fire. That's where the competitiveness comes from. Rap is a sport. It always has been. The thing about it is that because our platform seems a lot shorter than others, we think that we can get away with certain things. And I'm like, that's not how I'm going to deal with it. Like, I might be a consumer, but my dollars mean real cents. Like, when I'm spending $25, okay, for instance, Seraphin put out a project, and he was asking for donations of whatever certain amount of money that you could donate to. I donated a certain amount of money to him. That is money that I make doing my job. That's my money that I'm putting in my pocket So I decided to invest it in an artist who I think is dope.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing with going to a show and buying a ticket. When you see 5 openers at a show, why do we have 5 openers for a show?
Sometimes more than that.
More than 5 sometimes. Is that not ridiculous? That's so crazy to me. That is so crazy to me.
We just had this convo as well.
Yo, why is that happening? What? No, as a promoter, why is that happening?
Because they're not promoters.
Thank you.
Exactly.
Thank you.
There we go.
Thank you.
You have a bunch of people. I'll be honest, bro. What I find, there's just a bunch of talented people that are saying, I can do this.
Yeah. And
I can do this.
And they don't want to put in any work. And me and Prophet were just talking about this before the mic got turned on. like it's ridiculous.
Bro, I remember, Prophet, I don't know if you're going to remember this night. It was Eden, the pictures I took of you guys, and I got the video. And I remember I walked in, and the promoter was drunk.
I remember that.
You remember?
Yeah.
And no one was doing anything. Bro, imagine this. This is my first real going out. So the first thing I've done, Billy, you're on first. Black, you lot, you're on next. Chopper, come here. Here's the mic. Host, just host. All right, who's next? I'm doing it. My man was getting drunk with the gal in the corner.
No,
but you see,
that's bad.
That's
unprofessional.
Issue. This is the issue. The fact that a lot of times these people just want to be in the mix.
Yeah.
They're not there to actually. That's a fact. They're not there to actually accomplish something.
Yeah.
They're there to be in the mix to like party amongst a certain demographic. That's legitimately it, and that's kind of why there's been a certain level of stagnancy with regard to shows, particularly hip hop shows. And I keep saying this: these are not enjoyable for the viewing audience anymore.
Yeah.
Hip hop used to be incredibly enjoyable for the listener, for the watcher. Now it's like, okay, people are there to support, some friends.
They're not really listening to the music.
But the thing about it too, though, is that think about it. Back in the day, there was such a well of talent. The thing about it, you could throw a stone somewhere and not miss, and be like, you know what? This guy's dope. This guy's dope. She's dope. She's dope. Mm-hmm. They're dope. It was a list of talent. Now what it seems like is like everybody just wants to pick up a mic for fun.
Facts. Yep. Oh my gosh. Yep.
Everybody wants to pick up a mic for fun. And they just be like, you know what? I rap too. No, you don't. No, you don't. You work at a clothing store, and between your shifts, you write raps on a piece of paper with a crayon, and you think that you're an MC. No, you're not. No, you're not.
He's saying this.
I'm saying this. They're not saying this. I'm saying this. I'm saying this. Look at me right now. I'm saying this.
But you know what?
Oh, man.
I'll be honest. I'm going to just say this real quick. This is a fun episode, bro.
It's got to be.
This is a fun episode.
Yo, man, I've been watching too long not to hold my tongue, man. You know what I'm saying?
No, but do you know what it is? Again, because we live in a very conservative city, everyone does hold their tongue to certain topics and certain things.
And it shouldn't be like that, though.
It shouldn't.
No.
But again, it's like if you say certain things, you're going to offend.
Sorry to interrupt you, but this is something I'm just going to say. And I said it to Prophet when I came in. Fuck keeping it real, I keep it right. Mm. And it takes a community and a village to raise one child.
Mm-hmm.
So if our community and our village isn't trying to hold Prophet to the excellence that he has as an MC or as an artist, then we're doing Prophet a disservice. We should tell Prophet to become a plumber. Leave the rap alone. If that's not for him, and you see that it's not for him and he's struggling, then say something to him. Say, hey, you know what? That last single you put out or that last album that you put out, it was okay. But the previous one you put out was dope. Maybe you need to realign yourself with that first project and see what else comes out of the new project.
Yeah.
But nobody's saying that to each other. Everyone's just like, oh man, that WHcalgary freestyle you put up was dope. Yeah, what's going on with it? No. It wasn't dope. You need to go back to the tool, sharpening your tool, and come back to us when you have something real and like that has substance.
So my thing is, the biggest issue here is we're so quick to give that participation medal to people.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
True. Amen.
And that's again, like you said, it's very detrimental to the artist or to the creative, because it's like, Okay, well, if you're getting rubber stamped for legitimately everything, you just throw it into the ether. Where's the standard that's being set? You're not being held to a certain standard that's going to ensure there's a high caliber being released and to ensure
But
you're improving every
have,
time.
sorry to cut, you can't have that because then, in theory, by doing that, you're creating a division.
But you know what? It might be needed though. It might be needed. Like, okay, Jason, I'm respecting what you're saying right now, but honestly,
I'm playing devil's advocate,
okay,
bro.
I know you are. I know you have to, but I don't. So for real. But no, the thing about it is that participation medal is coming at the worst time of an artist's career and life. Because if he gets that medal once, he's gonna get it twice, he's gonna get it 3 times, and then from then he's gonna think and anything he puts out that's mediocre is gonna be ether when it's not ether. It didn't burn slow.
Yeah, but that's okay. All right, I'll say this. Someone, Prophet will know who I'm talking about. Someone had put out a track. I think it was 2 months ago. And that person thought that track was fire. I remember when it came out. And I remember I called you and I was like, bro, it's not it. It's not it at all. At all. But I know if I say to the artist, it's not it, I'm going to get a lecture about why they made it, how they made it, why it's fire, and why I'm a hater.
Why you're a hater? Oh Lord.
Literally all.
Oh Lord.
You know what I'm talking about, yeah? Cool. So it's not a factor of listening. I grew up in the era of I've come out on my block, I see all the older ones, they're rapping. I've gone over to rap. Move, man, what's this? Oh shit, okay. I've gone back, wrote something else. I've come back. I see one head nodding. I'm like, Now, okay,
yeah,
now I'm starting
to show improve.
To the point that when I'm in there now they're saying, Jay, come man, come into the
cipher. Yeah. You're ready.
Exactly.
You're ready.
And that's the thing.
Now it's your turn. Yeah.
I was from the era of the older ones openly saying, nah. We're not gonna that's shit, Jason. They're telling me to my face.
Yeah.
It's shit. Nah, we don't want that.
No, and this goes back to what Prophet was saying too about talking to you people in your camp. But I tried to put out a record like early on before when I first started spitting, so like early 2000s. And I remember playing it for somebody like a peer, somebody that I knew really well. And I was excited to play this record for that person. And I remember the guy just being like, yo, this isn't as good as your freestyles. And I was like, what? I was like, I put a lot of time into writing these verses. What do you mean? Like, what do you mean? And the guy's like, no. He's like, no, this doesn't make it. Like, this not make it.
Yeah,
Jamaican.
Exactly.
Yo, he's like, this not make it. And I was like, what? And to this day, I appreciate that man telling me that what I tried to put out was not fire.
Yeah.
And I think, and Prophet was saying before that he's sitting on a bunch of records right now that he's not putting out because he feels a certain way about them. And I think you need to follow your gut and honestly follow your vision when it comes to things like that. If you know in your heart that what you're putting out or you're trying to achieve with your music isn't making it, then don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't do it at all.
Yeah, but you see, that SoundCloud era and what Jason refers to as the Russ effect kind of allows people to think that, all right, well, everything I make has to be released. Everything has to be released immediately. Everything has to be...
And everything is good.
And I also have to do everything myself. I got to do the video myself. I got to do the album cover myself. And people have to play a specific role, and you play a role based on what your strengths are.
And nobody wants to play that role, though. Nobody wants to play their position because you know what? If we're talking about rap being competitive and being a sport, well, there's certain times you're not always going to score the winning shot.
Facts.
There's going to be a time when you're not going to be the one dribbling the ball up court. There's going to be a time when you're on the bench, and you're going to sit on the bench for the entire game, and you're going to have to realize that you cheering on your teammate is what you need to do. It's the same thing with this music game. Right now is not your time, so you need to take a bow out and work on your craft and say, you know what? maybe next year at the YYC Awards, I'm going to be nominated because you know what? I had a dope project this year. But last year wasn't dope, so I had to take a time off and work on something else.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it's like the saturation level needs to just be lowered a little bit. Like, okay, it's like lemonade with concentrate. Like how much water you need to put in there for it to taste good.
Right.
So it's like, how much water are you putting on your project? Are you watering it down? Because you know what? It's not what you think it is.
You know what? I'll say this. But you're coming back on again for another episode. Because we've got more stories.
Oh,
there's more stuff. There's more, but I'll say this, bro. Because I'm sorry, we have to wrap up. Well, go on, Loki. I see you. Yeah. But it's refreshing, bro. Oh, shoot. Move, man. Sorry. It's refreshing to have someone on that has not only spoken the truth in themselves, no political correctness. You've just come as you. So I'm grateful you've come as you, bro.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Having me too. This has been dope.
Yeah, bro. You need to.
And we just scratched the surface, to be honest.
Oh,
I know. This is what I'm saying. There's more.
2 and 3.
Yeah, that's
and I still have notes. I didn't even get to my notes.
Yeah, facts.
But there's a lot more. But I'll be honest. The chair's always gonna be here for you to come in and have a conversation.
All right, man. That's what's up. Thank you so much, Jason, for having me.
Thank you.
Yes, my guy.
Same.
Yes, my guy.